You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What is up, everybody? You are watching Kickin' It with Onrie the Live Crowdfunding Show. I am your host, Onrie Compen, and right now I am actually in Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, slinging comics. So when you guys are actually watching this, I'm going to be on the convention floor, aiming for Easton Chin's 99th convention sellout. Today we got an awesome guest here. He is a creator who just finished one very successful campaign and has his next campaign starting this Wednesday. And this is an excellent chance for you guys to get to know him. And we're all gonna get to know each other right now, and it's gonna be fantastic. So stick around. We'll be right back.
For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
All right, guys, it is my pleasure to welcome our guest for today. We got Armand in the house. Armand, welcome to the show. How you doing, my brother?
Hi, Onrie. Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, your name, you have such an awesome name. My nephew's name is Armand too. So I told you that already.
Yes.
So can you tell us your last name too? Because I didn't want to botch that.
Nassim. Armand Nassim.
Armand Nassim. Okay, cool, man. So you are breaking out into the comic scene, and you just had a successful campaign for your project Enid. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So it's called Elixir right here. You know, it's already printed.
Oh my God! Oh, I botched that.
No worries.
I'm so sorry.
The thing is, we just ran for 16 days on Kickstarter. Very successful. It's my biggest campaign to date. It's my third one. It's my third one this year. I'm trying to go for one a month every month this year. It's the big push for 2022. My big goal to kind of jump into comics. And, I'm learning so much in between. My first book that I ever launched, actually, and really the one I ever worked on was called Lost Magic Season 1. This launched January 3 of this year. And, it was a great learning experience. I was able to jump into the community and really make some great friends. And that's actually where I met Sam Quinton, and he pointed me in your direction, Onrie. He's like, you have to talk to this man. He's a master of sales and selling. I was like, I got it. I'll meet him. And yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I can't believe it's already like 4 months in. I'm about to launch the fourth book, Lost Magic Season 2. And yeah, I'm excited to keep the momentum going.
Can you show us some of the artwork in Elixir? I would love to see some of the interior work. And this is the book. And I apologize that I botched the name of the book. That was my fault entirely. But
no worries. Yeah, this is the first few pages.
Wow!
Incredible line artist by Pat Kwan, and then we got an amazing colorist in
who's your colorist?
What?
Who's your colorist?
Rain Barretto, and he's actually he was the colorist or he's the main colorist for DC's Deceased, which is like their best-selling zombie comic book, for like the past 2 years, and then Pac was huge because he actually won the DC's 2020 fandom art contest and got shouted out by like Warner Brothers and all that on social media. So they just never did anything with him. And then I was like, I saw his artwork and I was like, this guy's awesome. Let's get on a project together. And he believed in the story. And at every level, this story in particular just kept elevating to new levels. Again, Rain Barretto came on board, a veteran DC colorist. And then we got an editor, we got an animator to do the trailer, professional animator. So it's like, I really want to make this a big push to make this the best product it can be, and really be like, create a franchise around it, and like excitement and buzz to really, hopefully people start taking me seriously as a comic creator. If they haven't already, for my first two, they will after this. We're going to get the comic shops and all that.
I'm just going to interject here and say, you are being taken seriously, and if anybody is not taking you seriously after the artwork you just showed me, then they don't belong in this business. You are absolutely in, and especially your goals. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years now, my friend, and when I started out, I was not like, I'm gonna do one Kickstarter a month. You're just jumping in there. Pretty soon you're going to be a master of sales, and I'm already learning from you. This is incredible. Now here's a question for you. I want to go back for a second, and I'm going to make this about me because it's my show. I want to apologize sincerely for making a mistake with your book because, and I take this very seriously. I'm calling myself out right now on my show because people have botched the name of my book. They botch my name all the time. They call me Onrie and everything. And my book, they mispronounce it. They're like, hey, how's Isha she? You know, and I know how that feels because, you know, we put so much of ourselves into our book. And I honestly got you mixed up with another creator who I also hold in very high regard. But we're never going to make that mistake again with Elixir. And my next question for you is, can you tell us about this book? Give us the pitch. Give us the 30-second pitch on that.
Absolutely. It's a legendary monster hunter. He's angry at the world, and he runs into a newborn embodiment of death. And, you know, he hates monsters. He runs into this big, unstoppable monster, and now this begins his greatest hunt. And that's basically sets us up for a fantastical story with angels, demons, you know, man in an eternal war type scenario. And at its very core, it is a monster hunter story. So
that's freaking awesome. So if you're a fan of Blade or Vampire Hunter D, this is going to be right in your alley, guys.
Exactly.
So let's, before we get back into the Kickstarter, I want to know, what was your inspiration for this? Like, what made you want to make a Monster Hunter story? Because I want to do a Monster Hunter story, and this is just my challenge as a creator has always been, how do I stand out? How do I set myself apart with my story? How do I make sure that this isn't the same thing that has already been done? The artwork you're showing me tells me that this is something I want to dive into, but I'm also curious to know, what are your inspirations and what do you think helps your project stand out?
Yeah, you know, I think so. This is this was inspired by lots of events, you know, in my life, and it was, you know, on some sense it's a personal story. I feel like there's a relatable anger we all have that, you know, there are forces in this world that are larger than us, right? And I wanted to make all of these, you know, I wanted to embody all of these bigger, larger forces, right? And in the book, they're called the original forces of the universe. And then giving them an embodiment means we can actually fight them, right? We can chase them, we can hunt them, we can get answers, all these things. That was where this book was born. But about where inspiration, you know, it's, you know, I grew up reading lots of magical stories, anywhere from Harry Potter, you know, Game of Thrones is huge inspiration. The Witcher, I played a lot of video games, of course, but it really all tied into, I drew inspiration from everything from my past, and what I really want to tell was, like a new type of Monster Hunter story with a bunch of different meanings. But, you know, the original things of this, the original title of this book in particular is actually called The Last Days of Death, and it is a subtitle here under Elixir. So, you know, it's like, you know, he's literally hunting and trying to end, you know, the force of death in the universe. So it is an intense story like that. But yeah, you know, and then I wanted to also have a lot of fun with it. You know, there's a lot of characters, a lot of monster designs that Pat kind of came up with, and, you know, very inspired. And yeah, I'm excited for people to kind of read it, get into this world.
I'm excited to read it. I can't wait to get this. And I backed this on Kickstarter, so I know I'm going to get it soon. And I'm really, really excited. I mean, the moment you reached out to me, it was just a no-brainer simply because of your name. So no matter what. But aside from that, it was also the artwork. I mean, this just really pops out at me. And the thing that I love, what you were telling me about your pitch, is how you were kind of paying attention to the things that you know, get us angry, because you're right, like, there is such a bigger world than us. And prior to COVID, I didn't really think about it. I just went from one convention to the other, and I was the center of my own world until all of a sudden they cancel all these conventions, and then me being the sales giant falls flat. And that's not what happened. That's not what's supposed to happen. And I was filled with a lot of anger too. So I'm already interested in wanting to jump into your project. And that anger, I actually kind of use it for my next project, which is kind of cool too. So I'm already invested simply because of the fact that you're bringing such a personal, emotional feeling to it that resonates with me personally as a comic book reader. So this is right up my alley. So let's take the now like going deeper into that. I'm curious to know what kind of comics are you reading, and like what kind of comics are you inspired by in particular? Like why, in general, why comics? Like why did you decide you wanted to go and do this as a comic and not as a video game or a book, or why comics?
So it really was a few years ago. It's somewhere, this was again before the pandemic, like 2018. I read Monstrous, and that's really what brought me back into the world. Marjorie Liu, very established, great writer. She's Asian, she was doing great things in.
It's fantastic, and she is absolutely stunning. She is a beautiful woman. I'm not even kidding, and so accomplished. And she teaches comics at MIT.
Yes,
I mean, this is crazy.
The amount of respect I have for her, but she also, she means something to me because she showed me a path, and what how people can do comics, and again, people who are underrepresented, like we're Asians, and having her like be like literally the top name in indie comics, that meant a lot, and it also showed me like this type of story she was telling, it was different, it was new voices. Different way of telling stories. The art, of course, was incredible, but it represented like I was used to the old. Like I stopped reading the mainstream comics a while ago, maybe 10 years ago in middle school and high school. So then to see that change,
I stopped reading once they started re-releasing Quasar.
There was a lot of reasons I stopped reading, but yeah. And then at the when I came back, it pulled me in, and then I started getting into the indie comic scene. I read a ton. Once in Future. Something similar, all the big indie ones, but then now recently, in the past, almost 1 year now, or definitely 6 months to 1 year, I stopped reading him in indie comics, and what I mean by that is the big published indie comics. Now I only read crowdfunded comics. Now I'm in this community.
He's graduated.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the same thing.
So now there's even cooler things happening in the indie scene. I actually almost enjoy it more because I'm part of the community. I get to know the creators. I feel like not one, I'm supporting them, but two, I get to really get to have a connection with them, and that makes the story that I'm reading by them so much more valuable. I value that a lot more. I enjoy the experience a lot more. Whereas, I'm probably not going to be able to talk to somebody like Jim Lee or, Marjorie Liu, all these other creators.
Never say never, my friend. I'll tell you this. I met Jim Lee multiple times. I met Jim Lee for the first time when he came to Chicago for a store signing at Graham Cracker Comics, and he actually signed a Wizard Zero magazine for me. These guys want to engage, and that's something that you'll learn. And I'll say too, it's very interesting what you're saying, because I was doing the same thing before I got into dealing. Now I'm reading everything. I'm reading the Marvel stuff and DC stuff, everything. Mainly because I'm invested in what my customers are interested in, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, there's also this side of me that feels very obligated to know what's going on in the indie market too, because especially you got such a razor sharp focus on Kickstarters and those books, and that's fantastic because the quality on a lot of these books is extremely high. Like Travis Gibb, he recently finished his campaign for Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, and his books are just absolutely wonderful. They're stunning. I bring them to conventions and they sell. I don't have to pitch anybody. I ain't got to worry about anything. Same with Russell Nolte. He puts out some really incredible books too. And every other publisher that's using crowdfunding like Scout.
Charlie Stickney, amazing. Yeah. I consider Charlie Stickney a Kickstarter first, you know what I'm saying? And then Scout picked them up because they're forward thinking. But it's one of those things where I definitely see a lot of just great things happening all around. And as the growth happens in Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's going to be really turn it into its own industry.
You young kids, just wait until you're working in this field for 10 years. Let me tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I have to tell you, though, a lot of people say that, right? Like, there's the famous story of Jack Kirby coming up to one of his fans and saying, comics will break your heart, kid, that kind of a thing. But seeing your passion, and you're a relatively young guy, I'm assuming you're under 30.
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. He's still holding his arm. Just wait till you hit 40. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, seeing your enthusiasm and passion for this business, and for all the projects that you got going, and you are, I want to say right now, your goal of doing one Kickstarter after the other, it's very ambitious. For anybody who already knows how difficult Kickstarters are, I'm still kind of tapping my feet into the water and teaching myself how to get better at doing Kickstarters. Not that I'm afraid to get on there. It's that I want to do, I don't want to hit that launch button and think to myself, oh man, what didn't I do? What should I have done? You know? And
Yes.
you do kind of have to learn and proceed as you go. But if you have those kinds of, you know, safe places, and you see, that's my old age. You know, when I was your age and I was hitting the convention scene at first, I wasn't afraid of anything, and I did everything very unorthodox. I would be going and standing in front of my table and pitching my book. Not because I was trying to take sales from anybody, but because I wanted to engage with my audience. That's what it's always about, is making sure that I have a good interaction with the customer. And what you're doing by jumping on Kickstarter and having one successful campaign, we're going to get to the second one in a moment here. It really reminds me of what it was like being your age now and going after this. And it fills my heart with joy to see, you know, your passion into this, and you're already making decisions that a lot of creators, it takes them years to make to make those kinds of choices. Like, you brought on a colorist who worked for DC and worked on a top-selling book. Now it's not just about the quality of the work that you're going to be getting out of these creators. It's the fact that you're going to be taking their fan base and working off of that. It's very, very, it's how you're supposed to be thinking. And you got a great concept. I love Monster Hunter stories. I can't tell us about the main character. I'm going back to that for a moment.
Yeah, his name is Cyrus. Cyrus the Monster Hunter, and again, he's been doing this for many years, and he's good at it, right? He's good at monster hunting. He's one of these guys that, you know, his anger fuels him. But you know, he does have people who love him. He has a family. He has a best friend. And you know, he just kind of you know, he hates monsters, and then he basically throughout the entire book, he evolves to kind of understand that there's actually, you know, nothing is as black and white as it seems, right? There is because not even all monsters are alike, and you know, sometimes he has to work with the monsters. You know, it's all these different variations where he is internally conflicted, and then also outside of him in this crazy magical world, there's lots of, you know, actual physical external threats to him as well. So there's always like you know, there's always these you know, double-sided conflicts in this main character, and it's something we really want to showcase, that no, he's not a perfect hero, but what he is that he's relatable. He's like us. He represents, you know, not only our flaws, but he represents, you know, our hopes, our desires, and our questions, you know, our big questions that we have. You know, he also struggles with those. But then, of course, he is not weak. You know, he's not a weak person. He is a strong person. He can fight these monsters, and that's really what I want to showcase. That, you know, there is hope, and I wanted to create a character that could fight back against these things that are so big, so terrifying, and you know, and he can win, and you know, he can possibly win. So,
you know, it's interesting. The whole idea of insurmountable odds. It seems like it's a very common thing that is what defines not just heroes, but defines us as people. You know, you think about getting up every day and all of the challenges that face you. And I think about this sometimes. It's like, I could wake up today and by the end of the day end up in a dark room, handcuffed and, you know, gagged or something like that. You know, the likelihood of it happening is not very high, but anything is possible. You could end up dead, you know? So I think every day we wake up, we don't realize this, we take it for granted, but we're always going up against insurmountable odds. And so I already kind of like the idea of what you're saying here. And especially like when we think about bigger things, I was listening to what you were saying about monsters and how, you know, this monster hunter has to work with them sometimes. You know, I think it can be very relatable to like people who we know that we may not necessarily agree with. Like, for example, my wife and I, we come from very different backgrounds. My wife grew up in the post-Soviet Union. So the Soviet culture had a very heavy influence over her upbringing, not necessarily in the ideologies of it, but the the things about it that influenced her upbringing. The education system, for example, and the approach to education is very different than how things are handled here. And a lot of people from Europe and Russia and the old country typically tend to look at this, particularly in Asia, because my wife's Central Asian. They look at this as like, oh man, the education system is very, like lax in America, and they have it so easy there. But I think America encourages a different type of growth within a person, and the old methods of education are always changing because they kind of have to as we grow. Even the education system that we grew up with was not around for a very long time. Like if you go back 100 years, kids didn't even go to school. They were working on farms. They were, it was very different. So this structured education, it's a very different approach. And bringing this back to your project and why I've kind of veered off here is that there are times when my wife and I have very severe disagreements about upbringing with our kids. But we have to work together because we're a family and we love each other and we want what's best. We have to become united with what is most important, which is the upbringing of our kids. And, this is just a day in the life, right? And we take that kind of stuff for granted. So I love the fact that you have this character that I already feel like I can relate to. I mean, this is something that just speaks to me so much. So that's Elixir. I cannot wait for this book.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, that was the intent. But of course, I think I was talking to somebody the other day about, should I do a project? Because even though I'm not passionate about it, but maybe it has a market for it. And he said no. He said the answer is no, because not only will that come through, it's, you have to be, people will be drawn in, attracted to your passion about these projects. And I think that's what's happening in particular with this book, but also, the way that I present myself. You said it yourself that I am passionate about this industry and jumping into comics. And it's something that I want to inspire and motivate more people to do. I want this to be a fun place that we can all hang out, create comics and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we're going to come back and then we're going to dive into your second crowdfunding campaign that's launching next week. Folks, stick around, hear from our sponsors, our awesome comic-based sponsors who believe in what we're doing on the experience, and I will be back with you guys in just a moment.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.
All right, we are back, and we got Armand Nasir. Nasir, is it?
Nassim.
You have full legal right now to watch my name any way you want. You call me Onrie, Onrie, whatever the hell you want to call me. That's right.
Oh, no worries. No, Armand Nassim. I used to be self-conscious about it when this was back in like elementary school and middle school. Everybody would get it wrong. The kids couldn't understand my name, but then now I take it like a badge of honor. It represents something different. Everybody's just named John or Joe. I feel like it differentiates myself.
I'm not. I have a weird off name too. You know what I mean? It's like people like I totally understand. I hate, and I've always made that. And I've always tried to go out of my way, and usually I'm really good about this. if you feel like I'm picking on you, it's not that.
Oh, no, not at all.
I truly am just having one of those off days. And you know what? I blame it on all these back-to-back conventions. It's the Comic-Con's fault. Especially Phoenix Comic-Con's fault, because they can't even call themselves Phoenix Comic-Con anymore. And don't get me started on that. All right. All right, I'm sorry about the diatribe. Let's get back.
No, not at all. No, that was basically what I just want to say. You know, I like my name now. You know, it's something that I grew into liking, and yeah, and you know, even though people still, you know, I understand, and I'm just like, you know, but this is, you know, and then I definitely, you know, I don't expect it to be the last time. That's for sure.
Hey, you got a great name. My nephew, he's also named Armand, and you're not from Central Asia. Where are you from?
So I was born in New York, but my dad is from Pakistan and my mom is from Philippines.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember you were telling me that. That's very interesting. So how did they land? I mean, Armand it's an Arabic, an Arabic name, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Cause I guess then that makes sense. Cause you know, my wife's family is also Muslim too. So the influence is there, but I love the name Armand. That's a very powerful freaking name. You walk onto a convention floor. I wish my name was Armand. Pronounce right.
No, yeah, and you know, I even I do kind of like pranks or street interviews in New York City on the streets, and I you know, and I go introduce myself, and yeah, people instantly are, you know, it's a name that people will recognize, and then I do agree it is a powerful name, and it's something that I grew into, I feel, and I do really enjoy and like now. So
that's awesome, man. I would never have hated a name like Armand, even when I would have been like, yeah, my name is. You don't mess with someone named Armand. Like Onrie, you could go and pick on him, bully him, all this stuff. My name was Armand. No one ever messed with me. I would have never got bullied, and I never did because I'm really cool. I'm a good guy. People love comic book people.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into your second Kickstarter campaign. You got something launching on Wednesday. You look like you're getting very little sleep, and you're ready to just pummel through this. Tell us about your second project.
So there was a lot of pressure of this last campaign for Elixir. You know, a lot of things had to, you know, there was so much pressure to make it a success, right? And it was a success in the first, you know, 3 days. You know, there was like $3,000 raised, and then there was like more off Kickstarter, you know, through comic shops and stuff. But, you know, it was just kind of a crazy experience. You know, it was just so much pressure. And, you know, I'm trying to not make it be that anymore, you know, going forward. I had I started my own channel on YouTube. It really has helped me kind of, you know, just go with the flow a lot more, be more conversational, be more relaxed about, and just enjoy the process, enjoy people, talk to people, and, you know, enjoy the entire comic book creation and the community. So I think I'm not going to go as crazy on this one. The book's already done. I also have to plan my next few ones out ahead. So I am, you know, ahead on, you know, I'm already thinking months down the line. But for this one in particular, it is going to launch. The book's already done. I just haven't got it to the printer, but it is the sequel or season 2 of Lost Magic. So this is Lost Magic #1. And a fantastic artist was done here. His name is actually Martin Munoz, and this guy was shouted out by Bill Sikowicz on Instagram. That's how I found him, actually.
I love Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm actually reading his Moon Knight right now. Can we get a better look at some of that art? I'd like to see more of the interior. This looks
yeah, absolutely.
So Bill Sienkiewicz, what did he have to say about this?
He loved the abstract nature of this artwork. It's very sketchy. I'll show you another kind of page like this. So, you know, it's and then I got a colorist to color over this, and it was very hard to find a colorist over his line art because his line art, again, it was very abstract, very sketchy. And then I'll show you here, you know, there's more monsters, more magic over here. You know what I'm saying?
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Have you ever read The Max by Sam Keith or studied any of Sam Keith's artwork?
I have not.
This really reminds me a lot of Sam Keith, and I'm a big Sam Keith fan. I absolutely love The Max. I loved his he's done stuff with Batman, with Marvel Comics Presents. He did Venom at one point. I mean, his exaggeration of figures and poses and the coloring style that goes with it is just really fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And and this is the last page I'll show. But yeah, there's a lot of characters over here, and we wanted to really create something fun, something that could, you could feel like you jumped into a new world. That was what we're going for here. And everything about this isn't Earth. This isn't Earth. Like this is a lost world, and this is a lost world that magic was bursting, and the moment we jump in, mysteriously magic starts dying, and now the all the characters, there's 20 main characters across these 32 pages. They have to kind of decide what to do next. And there's no right or wrong answer. There's no heroes or villains. There's no good or bad side. There's only your decisions, and there's different people who are making different decisions. There's different groups, and yeah. So it's something that I was very excited to do, and this was heavily inspired by Game of Thrones, of course. Inspired by. This is actually 6 episodes in one season, and each episode has its own narrator, told in a different point of view from a main character's point of view. So it's we jump around, kind of like in Game of Thrones in the original book. He jumps around in chapter point of views, POVs. It's kind of like the same thing here. We get to see more of the world. We get to jump around far places of the world to kind of see how different dynamics of how everybody sees from their eyes what's happening as the plot unfolds.
It's interesting. Everything that you're saying right now kind of makes me think about this being a story of survival, really, and how much we take for granted. And not for granted, sorry. Forget that last statement. I'll tell you what I was really thinking about was how much you're compacting into one single issue book. You got a whole season in one single issue. And what's really interesting about this, and the fact that you mentioned Bill Sienkiewicz, is I just picked up, speaking of things I take for granted, this is something I do not take for granted at all. I picked up all of his Moon Knights. They're not here. They're in my house right now because I'm reading them one by one. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I want to say that I absolutely loved about Moon Knight was just how much they were able to fit in one issue. And I think to myself sometimes, how much can you really fit into a 24-page book or a 48-page comic, even a graphic novel? How much can you really fit in there? Yeah. But if you tell the story the way that Bill Sienkiewicz does, he just does so much on one page, and his panel-to-panel action is incredible. And what was interesting about his Moon Knight work is it was this really small window where his work was heavily influenced by Neil Adams, because that's really what got him in the door. That's how he got his recognition. And then he branched off from there and just went off into this whole direction and really blossomed, right? So the reason why I'm bringing up Bill Sienkiewicz is because he mentioned you, and you had he had mentioned this project and had said a couple things about the art. But now just seeing what you are doing by condensing so much into one issue is really incredible. You're giving the readers so much bang for their buck. I think that's really great.
Yes. That was definitely one of the things that I was thinking about that I wanted to do. I wanted to create something that you don't see in comics currently. And maybe there's a good reason for it. To be honest, I tell people, like, yeah, I this is the type of style, this is how my brain works. This is kind of the story that I would want to see. I was a big fan of the original Game of Thrones books. It has been adapted into comic books in this kind of, it's not an anthology. It's like, it just told, it's one story told with many characters in multiple point of views. And yeah, it was something really unique that I really wanted to kind of do. And I did them up for my first one. I think it would, people, like the art, but I think they're going to really like the storytelling style. It's different. And so far it's been well received. And, people are always, they want to see more. And that's why, I'm super excited for the second book to come out.
So are we following a specific cast of characters, or are you kind of switching it up? Like, can you tell me a little bit about the...
So there's going to be returning characters from season 1 and new characters in season 2. Every season will have new characters. That's the beauty of the sandbox world that I've created. And it's and they're all in service to the greater world as we explore this. It's a mystery. It's also a mystery because they're trying to figure out why magic is dying and how to restore it. But it's also that, there's lots of monsters, there's lots of characters, and there's lots of, places where we can really explore what it means to get and live in this world. Because I want people to jump in and be like, that's I can not only relate to that, but I want to jump in. I want every time they open up a book here, it's like, oh, this is cool. I am now in this lost world. I'm now in the world of lost magic. And yeah, that's kind of the hope and the desire.
That's fantastic. That's interesting. So you're jumping around a lot. So now let's talk about the creative inspirations for this. So, you mentioned Game of Thrones, but I was actually surprised you had mentioned Game of Thrones, because really what I was thinking was I was thinking about what's that one? There was this one show, and it was sort of like people trying to remember something that used to be around but wasn't, like, it had been long forgotten. I think it was.
Was it The Giver or something like that?
That was a book. I read that when I was a kid, which was also a really great story. But this is an interesting direction here, because when we think that reality is just what it is, and that there's nothing outside of that construct, like there's science and that's it. Like magic is make-believe stuff. Religion's all kind of like just hocus pocus and things like that. It's not how things work in reality. But the thing is that that's just what we've trained ourselves to think. This is what we have believed for quite some time now. But back in 500 years ago, people believed in magic, and some people probably believed in magic, and in that weird way, I wonder if magic can exist. Like, we think about existence and everything, like even voodoo. Like, would you mess with the voodoo guy who would make one of those little puppets and start like poking it with sticks, like, and it being you? Like, I wouldn't want to challenge that guy and see if he's real or not. Like, hell no. So,
same thing with ghosts. My mom doesn't mess. She's like, oh no, we're not going to mess around.
There's superstition, right? There's this something, and I think the reason is because we want to believe that it's not real, but maybe that's just our minds telling us that this is what we have to do. I believe that there are, I believe in magic. No, but I think it's something that we kind of just sort of block out of our minds because we live in reality. But then you see things, the way things are going in the world right now, and it's so wild. So
I will, it's a great thing you brought that up in particular, because the entire premise, like the one seed of this story was entirely based on and built around, was the question is, what if the stories that you've ever heard of monsters are real, and they were passed down from generations, and they were based on real sightings, people that actually saw these monsters. We're talking about, in the ancient, all these oral stories and storytelling, scary stories around campfires. What if they're based on some glimmer of truth where people actually saw these monsters, right? And all these monsters, they're coming in, through portals from this lost world, and this lost world is loosely connected to Earth, that's kind of where I base the story off of. I take great inspiration from all the monsters that that are in our culture, that were historically in our culture as well, and kind of play with that aspect. And of course, I put a lost magic spin on that, but it's kind of it is I definitely base this off of, like, what if all those monsters were real, and what if they're just like separated on a different world, and what if they can cross over, and what if they do so very sparingly, very very few times, but what is that world that they come from? What does that look like? And that's the basis of lost magic. So
I think it sounds like it's already got me intrigued, and I'm looking forward to season 2. So I noticed that you sent me a link here, but when I clicked on the link, it actually didn't take me there. Is that the pre-launch? Is that your pre-launch page?
It is the pre-launch page.
Okay. We're gonna get that link fixed. So by the time you guys are watching this, you'll just click here. It'll show up here. But I'll post that just in case we need it, and in case it can't be embedded after the fact, just so you guys know. well, we'll throw it in the comments or whatever, but I'll have it as a side scroller thing here, or right here at the bottom, so you guys can go and check out Lost Magic. And I'm assuming that even though this is for issue 2, if I haven't got issue 1, I can pick it up as well right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can pick up issue 1. You know, I have like, you know, almost 300 copies in my basement right now. So yeah, please do pick it up. You know, and I'm gearing up for the con season, of course. That's why I have that. But yeah, season 2, you know, will be printed out again within like a month. I'm trying to be the fastest turnaround time on Kickstarter. You know, I do understand how business works. You know, my background is business. I consider myself striving for it to be an excellent businessman, and that's why, you know, I try to do like 2 weeks to 1 month turnaround time on Kickstarter after the campaign ends, and I've been, you know, I've done it so far, and that, you know, gives people confidence. I'm trying to build that reputation because I see some projects that go on for months and I don't understand it. I
was guilty of that. See, I'm not kidding. I really was, because I didn't understand the platform. So when I did my first campaign for Eastern Shin, I had no idea what I was doing. And then here's what happened afterwards. A Korean company who does crowdfunding campaigns, they wanted to do a campaign at the same time because they're like, you could probably feed off of the Korean market. So I was suddenly running 2 separate campaigns side by side, and I didn't realize what was going on. And here was the worst part, was the book hadn't even started production yet. In fact, the book didn't start production until 4 months after the fact that the campaign was completed. So then it was in production for a year, and I learned that lesson. I didn't learn the lesson that time. I learned the lesson the second time after I put out the my 9th issue of Eastern Shin. My production process is a lot slower than yours, but I commend you immensely for getting this stuff done in advance, so that your audience, like, you have the right mindset. It makes me just so happy to see how much people are learning and growing as the generations get older. Like, you're not making the same mistakes that I made. You're moving forward in a direction that's fantastic. And no one should make the mistakes I made. Probably very few people did, even back then. But we're going to take a very short commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to finish this out. We're going to get to know Armand a little bit more, and we'll be back in just one moment. All right, I am going to.
Cool. I just fixed that link, by the way. I didn't launch it, actually. I just so I did it right now.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. You'll have it. Just have it to me by Friday. And
cool. Oh no, yeah. It's like the same link. If you just click it, it should.
Oh, it's the same link. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I see it. Yeah, now it's showing up. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll have that there on the page.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to go for another 15 minutes more, and then we'll call it. We'll wrap up. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, we are back because we haven't gotten enough yet. And thank you so much for sticking with us, guys. Again, I'm sorry this isn't a live show and that I haven't been able, and that Armand hasn't been able to engage with you guys directly. Of course, because this is going to be a broadcast, if you drop comments in the comment section, both Armand and I are happy to respond to you guys after the fact. And, you know, probably the best thing you guys could do, if you're watching the show and can't engage, just follow Armand on Kickstarter right now, and I'm gonna put up his pre-launch page link just one more time. We'll have it there, and then, you know, if you know, we'll throw it in the comments too, so you guys can click on it and be notified once Lost Magic Season 2 hits Kickstarter. And you can, this is a perfect jump on point. You can get on issue 1 as well, and this sounds like a really great series. So you said you were going to do a Kickstarter a month. You got 12 books in the works?
So not 12 separate IPs, but I want to say around 4 to 5 or 6 IPs. It's kind of getting away from me now, but yeah, but, you know, multiple, you know, and then I'll do, like, you know, issue 2 of all of them as well. So it's like, so yes, so there's 3 Lost Magics coming out this year, and then, you know, season 3 is going to come out in, you know, maybe October, just right around Halloween. But then, yeah, there's new IPs. Elixir 2 is going to come out in September of this year. So stuff like that. But yes, one new book every month, basically.
So you had mentioned conventions. What conventions are we going to find you at this year?
Oh man, I'm trying to run the whole gamut. So I'm in New York. So I am, next month's is going to be a big one for me because there's free comic book day. I'll be out on Long Island at a store doing the signing.
Which show? Jim Hanley's?
No, it's Best Comics International. That's where
Oh wow, okay, all right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that store, but if it's called Best Comics International, best international comic store there is.
And, I'm gonna double dip into because Billy Tucci's doing a signing at Comic Book Depot, which is about 15-20 minutes away. So I'm gonna go and try and say hi to him and to that store and those fans. So, but then CradleCon is also on Long Island. It is a big Long Island one. Basically everything on Long Island, there's a big one. I know Eternal Con's coming up over the summer. That's a big one at the university. And then we're all leading to the road to Comic-Con. You know what I'm saying, Onrie? So that's going to be in October.
The road is bringing us to Comic-Con. Which one are we talking about, though? Because there's so many of them now. Is San Diego, you mean?
No, New York Comic-Con.
New York Comic-Con, of course, because you're based in New York.
Yes.
That is the better con of the two.
Yeah. So I we're talking about how I can, expanding, going to different states. I might be at, I probably will be at MegaCon next month as well, which is going to be in Florida. And again, it's something that I'm trying to do more of. Pack, the artist of Elixir, is actually based in Florida, right outside Miami. So I'm trying to, do a lot more and kind of go to Florida shows. But yeah, for now, I'm just trying to stay. Again, it's my first year. I'm still learning. I definitely want to stay in New York, really build a home base here, and a fan base here, and then kind of expand if I have to or need to.
I'm jealous of you. Not only are you like 10,000 steps ahead of me when I was your age, and you're in the mecca of comics. New York is the capital of comics of the world. I mean, it honestly is. It always has been. Not only because both Marvel and DC once operated from there. Now they retreated because they moved out of the way. They got routed by all the independent publishers out there who have them with pitchforks, and they're like, "Get out of here, go out west." You scavengers, go out there. But anyway, what's really cool is New York is the base for so many publishing companies, and it is the base of comics. Like some of the most profound comic shops in New York are in New York. Midtown Comics. I mean, you enter Times Square when you come into New York by bus, and you enter Times Square. There's a big advertisement for Midtown Comics. It really, New York truly is the epicenter of the comic book industry, and that's why I love New York Comic-Con so much. So the fact that I'm meeting this young rascal here who's getting his Kickstarters out and establishing his base in New York is extremely inspirational to me. That's absolutely fantastic. So I want to ask you a question. I've been doing this a long time, and I know a lot of people have been doing this a long time too. This is a very hard field to establish a career in. Are you at this full time, or are you doing other things as well? Like what? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm trying to make it my full-time thing. We'll know after this summer if it'll bear fruit or not. It's really, again, I have to kind of play, my long-term visions here. So I graduated college. I did some jobs, and then now I'm trying to make, the full-time switch. I really want to do this full-time, and I do think there is a possibility of doing that, building the fan base, seeing the numbers grow every single Kickstarter, the fans coming back, returning, and expanding my retail shops of comic shops, the network. So I definitely see a path to do that, and I would say I will jump hopefully in the next month or two into doing this full time, not worrying about anything else. I'm tripling down on making content myself for my YouTube channel, Submarine Treehouse. So I'm doing everything I can to make it a thing. So.
And I'll tell you, starting your own YouTube channel, that's exactly how I have no doubt you're going to do this, by the way. I'm just going to let you know straight up, because you're doing all the right things. Like having your YouTube channel is a great way to ingrain yourself in the industry as someone that people want to get to know, and people that want to be interviewed by you as well. You know, it took me 10 years to start my own interview show. I started in COVID because I had nothing else to do, and I'm like, I'm losing my. I don't know what to do. This is before I discovered claim sale, or that it's not that I had discovered claim sales. I knew claim sales were there. I just didn't think, for some reason, it didn't process in my head that, oh, I could be doing this too. So it's really great to see you being young and fresh at this, and already you've already got a mindset that takes a lot of creators sometimes a whole lifetime to figure out. And the one thing that's really great about this is it's really a matter of not the world telling you that you can do this, but you telling yourself that you can do this. And that was the exact moment when I realized, hey, I can do this. And this has been how I've made my living for the last 6 years. It's not always the most, I'm not always raking home the money, but it's one of those things where once you establish yourself, how much money you make is entirely up to you, and how successful you want to determine yourself is entirely up to you. And there are many people in this field who are very successful. So are there any sort of figures in comics that you're looking to as sort of like, this person's doing it right? I want to go down the path that they're kind of like someone like in my case, I look at Brian Pulido, Lady Death. I'm like, oh wow, that guy's like the Michael Jordan of this. I want to see what he's doing. I want to pay attention to him. Is there somebody like that for you?
There is. In particular, I can call out 3 names right now, and they're part of, I consider them good friends, and they're part of the community that I jumped into. They were, they were able to, they give me advice. They were able to bounce ideas. They gave me the time, and we had great conversations about how to launch this, take this to the next level. So one of them is Sam Quinton, right? And he was a great friend, and he sells a lot of books. That's a fact. Yes. He's been doing this for a long time. So, and it means a lot that he, it's still always like every day we speak, almost every day, and he's always down to share any advice.
He's got such passion for what he does, and he's just, his books sell because of the quality and because he believes in them. He's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another one of them is Merc Magazine.
Sean Hudutchko, man, I love Sean. Sean is the man. I love Sean. How did you guys meet?
I actually met Murphy, who's editor-in-chief of Merc, that company. Oh, okay. We hit it off on one of these live shows, creator interviews. They were launching, I think, Born of Blood or whatever their book was that month, like 2 months ago. I was talking about Lost Magic. We hit it off really well. And again, we were part of the younger crowd in the industry, so she kind of really understood what was happening. And then now, like, I'm actually joining Merc in some capacity. And so it's like one of these things where I was inspired by them because they were hitting a goal of 1 a month. This was back when, again, this is my first one. I didn't have any plans to really do this, but then I was like, looking at their success, what they've done over the course of, they've been not even up for 2 years now. They're such a young company and brand, and then what they were able to do, that's kind of what motivated me. I was like, yeah, that's what I want.
Sean's got Sean is the publisher. And,
yes. Sean and Jamie.
Yeah, I spoke with him over the weekend at Indiana Comic-Con because his storefront, Comics Elite, is based there. But Merc also had a beautiful setup at the con, and I just bought one of their boxes and slung them on our show. It sold so fast. But the one thing I will say about Sean is the amount of knowledge that guy has about comics, and he knows talent when he sees it. And everybody on his team I've met so far has just been great. I haven't met Murphy, but I know Murphy actually, did I meet Murphy?
She was the girl there with blue.
Murphy signed all my books for me. Gosh. She was signing everything. I forgot her name was Murphy. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. I absolutely love her. Go ahead.
We were talking. Yeah, no. What I love about Sean and all these people, I love people with big visions. Sean has some big visions, and he's trying to execute them. He's doing everything he possibly can to make sure that it becomes a reality. And that's what I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to because I myself, I have these big visions, and then I'm ambitious. And seeing other people like that, that's what draws me. And that's exactly why Merc, Sean, Jamie, and Murphy, we really connected really well. The last person is his name is Aaron Neff from Global Frequency Studios, and he has this he has a YouTube channel. He runs his books on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, to massive success. He is a successful creator, and he's always on the cutting edge. It's always about being on the cutting edge of whatever is new. That's kind of really like my counsel of not really advisors, but they're friends that we're in it together, and we're gonna learn together. We're gonna really raise this industry together, because that's what it's all about. All together is what we're creating. Is indie comics crowdfunding. So
Armand, you are the future of our business, my friend, and I'm not saying that just to say it. I mean that sincerely. If there are not creators like you out there who are constantly keeping this industry alive through fresh content, we die out. You know what I mean? Like, this industry is dependent on new creators coming on and constantly bringing something new to the table. And I absolutely loved hearing how forward thinking you are already, how far ahead you are. I mean, it's just, I'm completely blown away. I'm inspired. And I look forward to seeing you just completely smash all of your goals and constantly get stuff out there. You're going to be somebody that the big publishers are going to want to hire, but they're not going to be able to, because you're going to be doing so much better doing it yourself. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with everything. I know you're going to do it.
Thank you, Onrie. That means a lot coming from you in particular. I do have so many more things to learn from you, and more questions for you.
You're done. You learned everything. I'll show you what not to do.
But yeah, Sam was talking so great. I already liked you before I met you, so I'm so happy that we got able to meet and have this conversation today. It means a lot.
Well, you have very good influencers and people that I know, and I don't know the third person, Aaron Neff from Global Frequency Studios, but I'm sure our paths will cross at some point. And the one thing that I always think is very important is that we understand a lot of people look at this industry and they like to make it a comparative thing, kind of like sports or left thinking versus right thinking. But comics isn't about that. Comics is for everyone. Comics is for everybody to come together. This is the common ground where we escape all of this comparison reality kind of crap to this world where we can all get along and coexist and enjoy and come together for our love of comics. So it's really great to have met you and to have sat down with you. And I appreciate you being here. You're the man. All right, folks. So I need to wrap this up now, and I'm going to jump on a live stream with you guys. And this is Wednesday, but when you're watching this, it's Friday. It's like, this is past Onrie talking to you. So unless I do something really stupid between now and Friday, I will, and then after that, I guess I'll see you guys next week with another episode of Kickin' with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys. And make sure you support my man Armand, because if you don't, All right, guys. See you later. Have a great weekend.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.